Now, one of the problems with jazz improv is just, the fretboard, there's so many choices of notes you could play against the chord. It can be quite overwhelming. Option paralysis often sets in. So something I like to get students to do is to limit them to, say, 3 intervals and go, right, can you play those 3 intervals against each chord? Can you then, over time, be creative with it? Because the act of limiting forces our hand on the creativity, forces you to think, what else can I do with these 3 notes? And it's surprising where it can go. I've always been a big fan of Mick Goodrick, rest in peace Mick, and his book The Advancing Guitarist. And a big part of his teaching was this limitation exercise to kind of force you to be creative and try different things. And I think that's really what I've learnt from him and what I take into my own practice and when I'm teaching, and that's what I want you to try today. So we're going to limit ourselves to 3 intervals: the root, the second and the third. So let's use Blue Bossa for this lesson. First chord C minor 7, root, major second, minor third. Happens to be the start of the theme of the Terminator. So that's our little cell. Now, if you think about that sound, it's quite a strong sound because you've got the root, you've got a character note in the second, which adds colour, and then you've got the all-important minor third, which really makes it a minor chord. Obviously, you could play this against the C minor chord, that's fine. You could play it against the F minor, the next chord in the song. But there are actually 5 other permutations of just that cell alone. They are the following. You've got root, second, flat 3. You've got root, flat 3, 2. So it finishes on that character note. 2, root, flat 3. Finishes on the all-important third. 2, flat 3, root. Starting on the flat 3, root 2, finishing on that character note again, and then flat 3, 2, root, which feels very final, a good one to finish on. Now what you then do is you take a standard, I'm going to use Blue Bossa today, and you try to come up with a cell like one of those 6, and then you try and apply that to each chord of the form of the song. What this does, it really forces you to know your fretboard, forces you to know where the harmony is. It develops your ear to the sound of those intervals. And over time, you're going to want to mix things up and be creative with the order of the notes and the rhythm that you play. But sometimes by limiting ourselves down and having less choices, it kind of forces us to be a bit more creative. Of course, there are more chords than just minor chords in standards, such as Blue Bossa. So what other iterations can you get of root, second and third? Well, you can have root, second, flat 3, which we've already seen. Root, second, major third for a major chord, or that would work over a dominant as well. And then root, flat 2, 3, and then root, flat 2, flat 3. And there would be circumstances with certain chords where you want that flat 2, depending on where the chord sits within the major scale. I'm not going to get bogged down in that today. And if you find yourself playing over something and the 2 doesn't sound right, it's probably because you need a flat 2 because of where the chord is within the key. Something you should be able to do really is find that across the guitar. So if I just took 1, 2, flat 3 for C minor, I can play it like that. It's everywhere. You ought to be able to find the same sounds across the fretboard. That's just about learning to navigate your fretboard. And a big part of the way I teach is this system of audiate, navigate, create. And it's the idea that you learn to hear something first. You can hear it in your head. Learn to find it on the fretboard. And then learn to experiment and create with it. So the thing you then do is you roll that out to the other chords in Blue Bossa. So 1, 2, 3, F minor. D minor 7 flat 5. This has got a flat 2. G7. C minor. E flat minor. A flat 7. D flat major 7. D minor 7 flat 5. G7. C minor. Obviously repeating the same thing over time just get too much, but that's not the point. The point is here about your fretboard and your fretboard knowledge and your ear. If I did that in time to a backing track, that would sound like this. you can then do is just pick another cell, like, I don't know, 2, 1, 3. And you could put a different rhythm with it and roll it out to the rest of the changes, like this. I did tweak the rhythm a little bit because of the frequency of the chord changes, how long we're on a chord for, just to make it work a bit better. But you can hear that, you've got a strong theme there. This kind of playing, I wouldn't necessarily do it all the way through like a whole form. This is more just a practice exercise, right? But, if you're playing over a couple chords and you play the same intervals against different chords, you do get that kind of response and repetition that can be quite handy in a solo to have a thread to it. The tab and notation that you've seen on the screen is available as a PDF on the supporter tier, the lowest tier of my Patreon page, link in the description. So you try different cells, we've got 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1, 2, 1, 3, the different, 6 different possibilities. Try them. It will really test you, and in a good way. It will develop your fretboard knowledge, and it will also develop your ear. But obviously what you want to do in the long run is not just play one cell against every chord change. You want to just kind of play in the moment. Now, I'm about to play over the backing track a bit more extended fashion, and I'm just trying to stick to 1, 2, 3. I'm not really thinking about it, I'm just thinking of the sound I want to hear, and I'll be going between different orders and using different rhythms. But the act of limiting can be quite liberating in the sense that it takes away all those possible choices, all these possible notes you can play, and means you have to create a melody with just 3 elements. Sorry, this is a slightly shorter installment. I just wanted to keep things simple in this particular video. Let me know if you've got any questions below. I'll put other important videos from this series on the screen for you to check out. Thanks for tuning in. Leave any comments below. Until next time, you take care.